Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a horror film from the United States, English language, released in the year 1997, directed by Jim Van Bebber, and this film is called The Manson Family. So the Manson family documents the horrible acts that this Charles Manson's cult committed in 1969, where there were murder of Sharon Tate and the LaBianca murders the following night. So we all heard about this. It has stood the test of time as far as history is concerned. And so this film documents Charles Manson, his cult, in the early stages leading up to those horrifying events. And so it takes place in a documentary style of format, and it interweaves it with present day actions. And so what happens into those events leading up to this horrifying event is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Manson Family. I remember watching this movie many years ago, and I remember not liking it at all because I thought as though it was a little bit too uncomfortable for its own good. But then after watching other movies based on Charles Manson, I couldn't shake the feeling that these are films that were glorifying this aspect. It was like putting Charles Manson on a pedestal as the someone to worship. And I thought as though a lot of these other films didn't capture Charles Manson for what he was, just an evil degenerate. And so a lot of these films had a glossiness to it, it had sort of a polish to it that didn't really feel dirty. But then I put my mind back to when I watched The Manson Family, and I remember feeling very dirty. So I thought, I'm going to have to revisit this film and review it. And hopefully it was going to be a film that could actually document Charles Manson for what he was. And so after revisiting this film, it's not a brilliant movie by any means. There's a lot of issues with it, but I will say it captures exactly what a horror film should. And that is something that you don't enjoy watching, but you can't help but watch it because of the way that the movie is shot. This is a very visceral film. It's a very hypnotic film, and it's a movie that makes you feel as though you need to shower at the end of it. And so not a lot of films do this, but I believe that Jim Van Bebber used the low budget to his advantage, because it gives you that dirtiness, it gives you that degenerate quality that Charles Manson was. And there's excessive drug use, there is excessive sex scenes, and there is incredibly strong, brutal violence. This film is extreme. It's right up there with the very extreme because of how graphic this film is. But I thought as though the graphic murders and how they actually made me feel watching them did the overall real life sort of true crime justice, because this is not something you marvel at, this is not something you enjoy, this is something that truly horrifies you. And to this day, The Manson Family is the only real film that actually made me want to turn it off, because I couldn't take anymore, because these murders were so cruel, so matter of fact. And I believe that it was the closest that you will get to the actual murders without actually witnessing yourself. I heard many people say that when they were on the crime scene in 1969, they were absolutely scarred for the rest of their life. And the violence in this film really scarred me. It actually made me, as I said, feel as though I needed to turn it off. And not a lot of movies do this because of the realism, the matter-of-fact way that the ugliness is portrayed in this movie. I thought was second to none. Jim Van Bebber didn't hold back, and he's not glorifying the violence, he's showing it for the real ugliness that it is. And so this is depravity of humankind that is being intensified through the visuals of a film that felt very dirty. And so I thought Jim Van Bebber, he used that lack of budget to his advantage. It does have its issues, but I thought as though the violence in this movie, it had a strong level of respect. Although it was excessive, although it was over the top, I always felt like it was capturing sheer ugliness, sheer terror. And so none of this movie felt as though I was enjoying it. It's not there for entertainment. It was there to really hit you over the head with the fact that this stuff really happens, and this is not stuff to marvel at. It's not stuff to really feel as though you're enjoying yourself. It's not entertainment. It's just a sheer endurance test. And so the sheer terror that happens in the last quarter of this movie, I thought was amplified to a point where a lot of other movies can't really capture this. It's because a lot of other movies don't have the balls to actually go that step further. And other Charles Manson-based films, they want to make money ultimately, so they polish it off a little bit. They water it down to a factor where anyone can really witness it. Whereas The Manson Family, what I respected most about this film is that it was very ugly. It was directed at a very acquired taste. And so that acquired taste is extreme cinema. And as I said, it's showing violence in a very unnerving way. So the overall gore effects I thought were phenomenal. They were really well done. And the last quarter of this movie is what really hits you over the head. The rest of the film, there is some pretty nasty, weird elements to it, but nothing will prepare you for the last quarter. So it is extreme. One of the most extremely violent films I have seen in a very long time. But I believe that after reading statements from police officers on the scene, this is as close as what you will want to get without actually witnessing the real thing. So the last quarter of this movie is something I actually respected, in that I'm not a sicko, I'm not saying it's great, you're going to love it. It is a film that will make you feel sick to the stomach, and so this is everything that Charles Manson deserved. He doesn't deserve to be worshipped as a hero. He was a degenerate, he was a scumbag, and he was just completely insane. And it was really creepy to see the way that he brainwashed his cult members. There's excessive drug use in the film, and so the drug use actually captures a horror element because they're going through these trips that I thought were very nightmarish, and so the film has a strong surreal quality to it without going into the realms of the paranormal. So the drug trips I thought were very, very uneasy, very surreal, fever pitch nightmare, and I thought the documentary style was actually quite decent as well. It was a little bit different, and so it had that sort of real true crime feel to it. Unfortunately, the low budget does provide a few problems. The acting isn't quite as good as it would have been if it had a bigger budget. So I thought as though the acting wasn't all that great, and so that was ultimately the biggest problem, is that the script is okay. I thought as though it was a very nightmarish film, but I thought as though the low budget quality does come through in a negative way because the acting isn't great, and some of the editing could have been a little bit better, but overall for a low budget film it needs to be applauded because it will really keep you up in a terrified trance. You want to turn it off, but there is something capturing you, and that factor that is capturing you is the hypnotic quality that Jim Van Bebber manages to produce. And so if it sounds like your kind of thing, go in there, but go into this film very, very carefully because there's extreme violence, and I mean extreme violence with a capital E, very graphic nudity and hardcore drug use, and so if you're not prepared for the onslaught that's about to happen, don't watch this film. But if you are into extreme cinema and you appreciate violence for what it is, which is cruel and devastating, then The Manson Family is one I would recommend. So overall for this film, I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's not a terrible film by any means, but it's just a very, very hard film to watch. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.